everyone. This is your host, PP Flower. I'm bringing in another controversial topic for discussion this fine Monday morning. Oldest profession in world history. What is it? Prostitution. Most of us know it. Wikipedia says prostitution is the business or practice of engaging in sexual activity in exchange for payment. Isn't that what we do in every profession? We just exchange something else. It's a trade anyway. Here's an interesting thing that UG said, and I want to quote it. I am not against promiscuity, nor am I against celibacy, but I want to emphasize one basic thing. That is, in the pursuit of your spiritual matters, it doesn't really make any difference whether you practice celibacy or indulge in sex and call it tantric sex. It is comforting to believe that you are having tantric sex and not sex with a call girl or a prostitute. To say that there is more feeling or more closeness when you have sex for spiritual reasons is absolute gibberish. So you didn't see any difference, when it came to normal person or a prostitute or whoever. And there was actually an incident where he met a prostitute in France. I think it was in Paris. He met this girl. I think she was standing behind him and someone was taking his picture. And then this girl, the guy who took the picture of UG offered that picture to him. And he said he didn't need it. He didn't care for it. And so the girl standing behind him, which was a prostitute, took it and she put it actually in her room. And the next time when she met him, coincidentally, she took him in her room and showed it to him. And UG just smiled and left. So, she had to say this to him, that you are the first person who's not judging me even after knowing that I am a prostitute. So I can only say that UG saw everything as an exchange. Whenever you are doing anything to get money and survive in the society, it's all an exchange. Either it be spiritual, mental, or physical solace, and that included sexual pleasure. And so anyone giving something in exchange of another is essentially performing a trade. Is it good or bad is a judgment of our conditioning. Society says why one thing is better over the other, and it is not the same everywhere. Actually, in many countries prostitution is legal. In US it is not. So let's look at the history of the oldest profession. In Mesopotamia, priests used to have sex with prostitutes. Ancient Greece or Greek civilization has also highlighted legal brothels that catered to political leaders and just common men. In the Indus Valley civilization, there is mention of this profession as well. Many archaeological findings show bronze figures that seem to be sexual in nature, and we all know there are so many temples in India that show that too. In Indic or in India, or as per the Indic civilization, the Vedas, actually, the earliest of known Indian literature, has abundant references to prostitution and as an organized and established tradition, actually, and mention in ancient text in the Rig Veda mentions that unmarried women for sale. Actually, it has there. And those were called sadbarani, which means women who offers sex for payment. So in Vedic times, most prostitutes seem to have dressed in red, and their gold jewelry was also of the same hue, reddened. And they were to scare away the demons and give protection to the people who were performing this morally gray thing or act. So, in Indian mythology, there are many references of high class prostitution, form of celestial demigods acting as um, prostitution. They are referred as Menaka or celestial nymphs. And I have mentioned them in my All Kalnan series and how they came about. I have theorized all of that. And this girl, in All Kalnan Zenith, when the main protagonist, he tells her that she is Menaka and this is her background, she's like, she fumes at him because she's very conditioned and she doesn't want to believe that she is of that, or she could be a celestial nymph, which is meant to for all this, prostitution like purposes. So she gets really mad at him. Anyway, they were used as entertainer in Lord Indra's court, or the Lord of Lightning and Thunder. And I'm writing another book actually, and in that I have this whole Trishanku's heaven and Vishwamitra, and how Indra, got back at Vishwamitra by sending a Menaka to him. Anyway, I'll be releasing it in a few months, the new book. So the prostitution was also common in ancient Rome, and in Old Testament, it was accepted as a more or less necessary fact of life, and it um, more or less expected that many men would turn to prostitutes. During the Middle Ages and through the 19th century, prostitution was tolerated as a necessary evil, as legal brothels operated in much of Europe, actually. And they were actually an important source of tax revenue. So, why then did this oldest profession become a taboo? In my opinion, points me to the dangers of spread of venereal diseases, the sexual diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, because brothels are a cesspool for spreading these and many actually other kinds of diseases, because you're not just exchanging the air but also the bodily fluids, and they carry all the diseases, as we know, most of them, the ones that can spread through these. So, Yuji had once mentioned that prostitution is what keeps a lot of violent sexual crimes at low margin. And it's not his exact words, but that's what he meant. And rapes, sodomy, pedophilia, sexual fetish, and there are so many other kinds of fetishes. I will be mentioning them in my new book, but yeah, there are. I mean, the list is of these so-called sexual perversion is really long, and I can't get into that. But a question now arises: is prostitution limited to lower and middle class as an affordable outlet to their sexual frustrations? No. In fact, high-end prostitution is rampant because even the privileged need an outlet, and their outlet is pretty gory. It is not about escorts only, but much more than that. In India, before it was India, there used to be a concept of treating women as commodities. To mark their victory, kings would take the most beloved prostitute as a token of peace from the losing party. Another class of girls were fed poison from infancy and were given as commodities to kill the victor king. These women would could give kiss of death because they were fed poison since birth, so they were immune to it, but anyone kissing them wouldn't be. And they were called Vish Kanyas, or poisonous virgins. Let's not forget courtesans. They used to serve the royals for not just variety, because let's face it, men are wired to be attracted to more than one. And so these women that didn't demand loyalty were great in keeping these men bound to one for all intents and purposes, except for sex. And that was to be accepted by the dutiful wife. Then there was this to Chanakya. Chanakya was, he had written Artha Shastra. There he dictated how prostitutes should behave. If you ask me, this dude didn't get any. And so he had a lot of bitterness towards this and other societal concepts, but whatever. Then there was Vatsyayan. He was a noted king sage, Indian sage of the 3rd century BC, and he wrote Kama Sutra. Kama Sutra is very famous everywhere. And he even drew the poses just to be thorough. One must also understand that going to prostitutes to understand the art of lovemaking for a successful marriage is a plus, because then you'll be learned before you go for your first night with your wife. Whatever is first night. Anyway, another industry that is under heavy scrutiny was the film industry. Today it is known, um, but not so much talked about, this whole sex exchange thing or fucking your way to the top. Um, Except if you're a Christian, of course, then the religion says it is sin. Mahesh Bhatt, a very prominent Bollywood producer director, had said that I'm a prostitute. These films were made to titillate, A prostitute provides titillation and gratification for a price. I do the same, and I have the intelligence and humility to admit it. I want your money, not your praise. I don't want to be invited to a sacred hall and sit with the purist. So he was pretty open about his perversions. And the Mughal era has the profession mentioned under the word Tawayef from 1526 to 1857. It was under the kingly Mughal reign, and then it moved in with the red light area. As the time progressed and science and religion began to take solid footholds, prostitution has been denounced. But in fact, well, the fact remains that this is the oldest profession, and my husband and I were talking or discussing, even with so much progress, we do we think that AI will take over humanity? And we concluded that many jobs require a manual switch situation, and they are the oldest basic jobs like construction, plumbing, maintaining machines. They can be automated, but everything still needs human intervention at some point. Is it that we don't trust machines enough, or is it that we are not capable of replicating ourselves into machines? If we are then if we do get to a point where we are able to replicate ourselves into machines, then what's the point? Because we are here. Why are we doing it? Anyway, so I wrote this book, I Subscribe, that trades with this automation. The main protagonist in it wants to separate sex from reproduction, and that is where he meets a woman who doesn't care about selling her body or having an uninhibited sex. And then there is his girlfriend who is educated and is of strong religious background, and she hates all this, of course. I'll read an excerpt from my book too. So the excerpt is it is a heated discussion between the main protagonist, his girlfriend, Victory, who is also running the project of separating the sex from reproduction, and the woman who doesn't care how she makes money, Athena. Athena is here to get the HR letter that could say that she's employed there so that she can apply for a home loan. So that's why she's there, to talk to Victory. And Victory is saying to Athena, what makes you think you can waltz your way into someone's pants to get a loan? My voice was appropriately graphed to present my acute disgust for a prostitute. Huh? I took this job because it means good money. Isn't that what you are doing too? Excuse me? I shivered with revulsion over the absurd assessment. I'm not having sex to make money. How mortifying would it be to run into these people while doing grocery? Should I be mortified if I run into my ex boyfriend while doing grocery with whom I understandably had sexual relations? Oh boy, she was a high strung slut. You weren't being paid for it. Every word was justified to perfection and spit it out like gravel, aimed to hurt her missing dignity and scrape her insides. So if I didn't get paid, it would be okay? The nerve of this bargain bitch! Sex for money is shameful. So is sleeping around. Do you have any morality? So that's where I want to end. If you want to know more, you can read my book, which is available on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, and it is for a very low price if you want to check it out as an ebook. If you want to buy paperback, that would be great. Um, but it is not available in every country as a paperback. All right, then. Well, that's all for today, and that was my take on prostitution. Let me know what you think. Until then, bye bye.